Warning, this video contains my opinion. I recently made a video talking about what I thought were the top 5 worst characters on the Walking Dead television series, and I only thought that it would be best if I followed it up with a video talking about my top 5 favorite characters on the Walking Dead television series. So without further ado, these are my personal top 5 characters on the Walking Dead. Number 5, Hershel. The biggest thing that sets Hershel apart from the other characters is his age. In a show where most of the characters are relatively young, it's interesting to see how an older man would handle certain situations in a zombie apocalypse. And while he does have a few badass moments, Hershel ultimately serves as the group's voice of reason, and I especially enjoyed his scenes with Rick, which gave the show some much needed levity. Overall, Hershel was a well-written, well-acted, and likable character, and it was sad to see him go. Number 4, Daryl. Yeah, I know, this is a lot of people's favorite character, and it may be odd seeing him not at number 1. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like Daryl. I mean, he is on my top 5 favorite character list after all. But the simple fact is, Daryl isn't interesting. Ultimately, his defining character trait is that he's cool. Which brings up the mostly shallow reasons as to why people like him so much. He has a cool attitude, he has a cool jacket, and he uses a cool crossbow, and he rides a cool motorcycle. And yeah, I'll admit, he's pretty cool. He's just not that interesting. Overall, Daryl is a very entertaining character who comes off a little too perfect at times. Number 3, Merle. He may be a terrible person, but he is an awesome character. Everything about Merle is fantastic. First off, he's played by Michael Rooker, who gives an incredibly enthusiastic performance. You will never get bored when Merle is on screen. He's a very humorous character, but he's also supremely badass. And in a show where most of the characters are bland and brooding, Merle stands out because he actually has an entertaining personality. Also, he has a sword hand. He would have made the list simply for that. Number 2, Shane. What the Walking Dead television series accomplished with the character of Shane is kind of amazing, especially when you consider how one-dimensional his character was in the comics. The interesting thing about Shane's character is that he realized what it took to survive in a zombie apocalypse. Unfortunately for him, he realized it before everyone else. Shane was around a lot longer in the TV show than he was in the comics. Because of this, his development from a good guy to a bad guy is much more believable than it was in the comics because his transition is much more gradual. What's impressive is that the show manages to make you despise him while also sympathizing with him. And when he dies, you don't know whether to be sad or satisfied. Overall, Shane is a fantastic character, and the fact that they turned one of the worst characters in the comics into one of the best characters on the show solidifies Shane's place on this list. It's also worth noting that Jon Bernthal gives a great performance, and I believe that this is the role that helped get his foot in the door to be the Punisher in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Number 1, Beth. Just kidding, it's Rick! Of course it's Rick! Rick Grimes is The Walking Dead. It's his story. The best thing about Rick is how dynamic he is as a character. He's strict, but likable. He's badass, but not to the point of absurdity. He's the most well-rounded, relatable, and interesting character the show has to offer. But no matter how well-written a character may be, it doesn't matter unless there's a good performance behind it. And luckily, Andrew Lincoln is fantastic as Rick Grimes. Lincoln is without a doubt the best actor on the show. He delivers almost every line with such conviction, and he manages to convey every emotion convincingly. And like I said before, Rick is a very dynamic character, so Lincoln has to bring his A game in order to bring such a complex character to life. He has to be physically dominant, but vulnerable. He has to be stoic, but emotional. He has to be grounded, but also slightly unhinged. It's a lot to tackle, but Andrew Lincoln pulls it all off perfectly. Not only is Rick more interesting writing and performance-wise compared to the other characters, but he's also more interesting in terms of something as simple as his character design. At the start of the series, he looks like he acts like a sheriff. But as the series goes on, he sort of ditches the hat and the uniform. This symbolizes how Rick is transitioning from a sheriff into more of a cowboy/outlaw who shoots first and asks questions later. Speaking of shooting, it's worth noting Rick's frankly odd choice of weaponry, whereas most of the other characters on this show use relatively modern weapons like snipers, semi-automatic shotguns, and assault rifles. Rick uses a clunky revolver. But what's great about it is it doesn't feel out of place and is perfectly keeping with his character. It's a weapon that represents a simpler time, and it fits because it's a weapon that's just as old-fashioned as the guy who's holding it. It's little things like that that help separate Rick from the other characters and makes him more unique. I've said many times to people that if The Walking Dead kills off Rick, I will simply stop watching. Because simply put, Rick Grimes is the best character on The Walking Dead. But hey, I mean, that is just my stupid opinion. I want to hear what you guys think are the top 5 characters in the Walking Dead television series. Leave a comment down below and let me know who your personal top 5 characters are. And if you have any video suggestions as to what kind of Walking Dead videos you'd like to see in the future, leave a comment down below, let me know. Guys, as always, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.